You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take.
Plan. I'm the enemy. Because I like to think.
You can travel like a Bobby doll. You can hang out like a biker's mom. You fit in anywhere you go. Bring your own style just to steal the show. You started so loud and I'm slow and you said, drink with a lot, you drink and smoke on your bed. Love by all yourself, you know. You're always involved, you're the star of the show.
Hello, and welcome to the show. We've got a very interesting situation brewing right now. We've got this show, which is on every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. in the UK. Is that right, Russ?
That's right.
I thought so.
6 p.m. 6 p.m.
6 p.m. 6 p.m.
That's right, 6 p.m.
Daylight savings. Okay. Amanda B., good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, Amanda. Hello. Oh, Darren's left. But hello, hello, Darren. If you come back, hello.
Yeah. So we got this curious situation where we do this show once a week for an hour. And there are 167 other hours in the week that Ethan Van Sciver could be live streaming. But he decided to stream during this hour. So, Ethan, I want you to know there's no hard feelings. We don't mean to drain your audience away from you. As you can see, I've got my all caps hat on. I'm, a happy all caps customer. I don't want you to think there's any beef between us. We don't, we're not trying to harm your business. We're not trying to steal your viewers. But, if you're going to stream against the Fulton Land fire, you're going to get burned, even if you're a mogul such as yourself. So, I just want to let you know it's nothing personal. It's the chat is going to do what the chat is going to do. And I can't really do anything other than be very grateful that they're here, that they're joining us today. And we certainly enjoy the pleasure of their company. Now, speaking of the chat, welcome Lord Crackhead 33 and Leroy.
Hello, Lord Crackhead Leroy.
Good to see you here. There's the 2-finger salute for Mr. Leroy. And we've got some interesting things happening in the last week or so. And it got me thinking, Russ, about different... I'm going to go through all of them. Other channels have covered them. If it comes up in the conversation, then that's fine. If people in the chat want to throw out specific examples, that's cool. We can talk about them if you like. But anyway, what I'm getting to is the idea of customer value in terms of what a customer's business means to a company, but also the value that a customer places in a product or a service. And what are people, particularly comic book readers now in 2021, now that they've seen what is, in my opinion, and those of, virtually all, if not all of the people who watch this show. And if you're watching this on the replay, thank you very much. We appreciate you taking the time to check out the show. Uh, what is it that people are looking for in their entertainment now? Because we've seen what many of us consider a decline in the quality of entertainment over the last, at minimum 5 years. Many of us would say it's been happening a lot longer than that. A lot of us would say it probably goes back to the 90s. Others may think it goes back even further. But anyway, the point is that we find ourselves in a state of entertainment today where many of us are not happy with most of what's out there. So, Russ, I'll just start with you. As you kind of look around the entertainment landscape, whether that's comics, film, TV, video games, professional sports, uh, anything else really, Turkish oil wrestling, what is it that you're hoping to get, and how does that, on a day-to-day basis, how does that line up or compare to what you actually get?
Oh, I'm going to sound really old. I think the main thing is and this is going to sound like a broken record, really, because of what so many channels and so many people with an opinion are currently saying, is that I don't want to be preached to, and it seems that it comes through in everything. So, like you say, even silly things like sports, there's always as a, for instance, mental health is important. I'm aware of all kinds of issues with mental health and with disabled. I have my I don't think you're allowed to use the word disabled anymore. That's how ridiculous it is. Again, special needs, whatever it might be. I have people in my family. I know about these things. Okay, that doesn't mean I want to hear somebody on the latest football channel saying how shocked they were by something. I don't want to hear it. I just want them to talk about the sport. I don't want them to try and underpin their virtue signaling by, I saw a news story today. This is slightly aside. A news story today via another video that was on the BBC website, where the story was from a guy. I was watching my wife give birth to our child, and it gave me PTSD. It's like, grow a pair, grow a spine, for God's sake. While my second child was birthing, I was eating cheese and tomato sandwiches. Okay, that was the way it works. The word "man up" is obviously has got lots of things attached to it, but just like human up, if you like, just like get a spine. And so going back to what we were talking about, just hearing so much and seeing so much Activision. Activision. That was a great games company. Activism and lots of virtue signaling and just talking about things other than what you're there for. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if I'm there for sports, I want to hear you talk about the intricacies of the sport. I don't want to hear about somebody's mental issues or emotional problems. They're real. I understand that they're important and they have an important place, and you must not throw these things under the rug, as it were. You mustn't sweep them away. But now's not the time to talk about it. I'm watching the football channel for the football, not for the mental health of the footballers.
Yeah.
I don't want to know about that. And it's in entertainment as well. It's like there's so much extra stuff in there, and all you're there is for an entertaining time, and you're getting all these other messages. And it does two things. First of all, it pisses you off. Okay. And secondly, it muddies the entertainment. It doesn't make the entertainment pure entertainment anymore. Yeah. There you go. Watch his curling.
Curling
doesn't count. Curling.
Are you a curling aficionado, Russ?
No, no. I don't watch curling. Oh no, it's man up.
Yeah, Leroy insists it's not human up, it's man up.
Yeah, man up.
How dare you, Leroy? Hurling those scurrilous curling accusations. How dare you?
In all fairness, I don't watch an awful lot of sport anymore because most of the people that commentate on it do genuinely get under my skin. I'm just like, oh God, no, just shut up.
Oh, I used to be I used to be a hardcore basketball fan, NBA mostly, and then American football. American football, I would watch. I mean, I was a hardcore fan of both of those sports, and a casual baseball fan. And I stopped watching all of them. It was either I think it was 3 years ago. I think 3 years ago I stopped watching regularly, and then after 2 years ago I couldn't even be interested in the championship games anymore. And it used to be, I would like schedule my day or my weekend around when these games were on. I'd make sure I'd get all my other stuff done so I could just enjoy the games. But they lost me when they started caring more about Twitter likes and Facebook posts than they did with entertaining their customers.
We have darts. Do you have darts in your country? Darts?
Yeah, we do.
We have darts. When I could put up with them making darts and snooker a sport, but I can't put up with it when they try and call karate a sport, because that really pisses me off. So as soon as karate started turning up in lists of sports, I was like, I don't like any mainstream sport anymore.
Now, if they call it a combat sport, is it any better?
No, it's not a combat sport. It's a way of life. It's a martial art.
There you go.
Simple as that. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of respect for sport karate, karateka. They're athletes. They do an incredible thing. They work really hard, but karate is not a sport.
Yeah, and Mo says it's not a sport when you fight as dirty as Russ.
Well, once you've got to my age, you've got nothing left but dirty.
What's the I don't know if you have this saying in England, but in America, it's old age and cunning will defeat youth and skill every time.
Yeah, that's about the size of it. You just, weight advantage and being fighting dirty does it every time, mate.
Well, welcome to Mo Biggs and Jim Cox.
And Jim. Hey, Jim.
It's good to see you guys here. So I've been thinking a lot this last week about these concepts of value and how it can change depending on whether you're in the position of the customer or the company owner. I just said that twice. I meant to say company owner or company manager, but then also the employee that is customer facing. They interact with the customers, and I was curious because I used to be in the corporate world a long time ago, and there was a lot of emphasis on customer satisfaction and training people, how to be good customer service representatives. And there's a lot of training for how to represent the company in the best light possible. And I was just curious, since I've been out of that world for so long, I would just dip into some corporate stuff again and just see what they're saying about value and what sorts of things in 2021 are they thinking about when they're trying, if they even are trying to appeal to customers anymore. What are they going for? So here's something I thought was interesting and pretty much right on. I wanted to see what you guys think. So here they've got this pyramid where they basically show that from in the mind of this company, a customer perceives value in three different ways. One being an experience value that's defined by how people with the company relate to that customer, the relationship interactions. Which I thought was definitely, I can sign on to that. Then they call product value, where when the customer is using the product, or let's say if it's a service, how is that service being delivered? You know, if you have your trash bins emptied by a guy in a truck once a week, how good of a job is he doing? That would be, product value in the sense of a service. So I think that kind of falls under delivery. Whereas if you are buying a vacuum cleaner, then your sense of product value is how well does that vacuum cleaner work? So I'd fall under use. And then lastly, they have brand value, which is, what is if the company has built up a brand, what sort of expectation do we as the customers have from that brand? You guys in the chat, I really want to hear your input on this stuff. If there are any particular brands out there that you really like, if you don't mind, just put it in the chat, and then just a quick reason why you like it so much. It could be anything, whether it's the type of shoes you wear, or the car you drive, or a delivery service that you use to get takeout these days. I'm curious to see what people have to say. Russ, do you think that in the world of comics anymore that there is still a brand that has the same shine that it used to, say 20 or 30 years ago? Or if it's a newer company, one that still has the same shine in 2021 versus maybe 5 years ago?
Oh, no, I can't think of one. Obviously there's a split. You've got some people who are continuing to love people like Marvel and DC no matter what they do, and you right. can't take that away from those people. If that's what they enjoy, that's great. But there is no doubt that from a general perspective, all of the brands in the comic book industry have been affected by the general discontent, but even more so the self-destruction of the industry as a whole. And all of those brands have suffered. It's like, I suppose from the sport analogy, you've got all the top soccer teams in our Premiership, okay? If the Premiership itself, if the people behind the Premiership started deconstructing it and being hideous to anybody who didn't like them, it would bring all of the individual teams down from their brand's perspective. They'd all suffer. And I think that's kind of what's going on at the moment to a large degree, even though there's some of the content is questionable. The industry itself is bringing comics down. It's bringing all brands. It mars, it scars all of the brands that are out there. And when I say the industry, I'm talking about two things. There's the way that some industry professionals act towards potential audiences, and there's also just the general predatory practices that the industry has put itself through over the past 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
So okay. I don't think any of them have gotten away with it. I don't think anyone's gotten away with it. I don't think it's a good place for any of them to be. And brands in general, it's funny because you're asking that question in the chat of what brands do they like? And I was just thinking to myself while you were asking that question, I'm thinking what brands would I say, oh, that's a really good brand? And I was having trouble thinking of any brand that I would go, oh, that's really, really great, because none of them, nothing seems to stand out anymore. Nothing seems to stand out. There's no excellence anymore. I was thinking about the car that I bought. I'd say, I'd probably recommend that car, but it's not an excellent car. It's an average car. It's just, I don't feel I need to spend tens of, like lots and lots of money on a car. So I got an average car, which worked for me. Maybe if I was still driving a motorbike, I might shout about that, but then would that be the brand, or would that just be my love of riding motorbikes? I don't know. It's really, really difficult. Yeah, I mean, Samsung used to jump out at me with the TVs and everything, but I sort of I don't know. I think the world is awash with brands, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's awash with it, and there's so much messaging out there that it's difficult to pick them out. I suppose all it can be is down to personal experience. Have you found a product or a service that works for you, and that you can pick that name out of the hat? But honestly, a lot of the time, it's only happened if it's happened to you in the last 2 weeks or a couple of months, you'll remember that brand.
Yeah.
But other than that, you'll just kind of carry on with your life and forget it.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I want to highlight Amanda B said AAA, she used to work there, known for their dependability. And Russ, I don't know, do they have AAA in England?
I presume that's Automobile
Association.
So we have the AA.
Okay,
not to be confused with the AA.
Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
So out here, it's if you have a membership and it's not expensive, you can get, if your car breaks down, you can get a tow. If you have a flat tire and you don't have a spare, or you have a spare but you're not able to change it yourself, they'll come out and change it for you. Your battery dies, they'll give you a jump start, or they can even bring you a battery and you just buy it off of them right on the spot, and they'll put it in for you and make sure that it works. Jim Cox says, I called AAA once after my account expired and they said, let's get you a tow and you can renew later.
I mean, that's quality, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's excellent.
That's the kind of customer service that earns loyalty, sometimes for a lifetime. Contrary to what you were saying, Russ, where it's hard for you these days to think of a brand that stands out for its excellence in product or service or whatever, let alone one that you would be loyal to for a lifetime. And yet AAA is one of those ones where, I don't know how it is in other countries, but at least in the US, you could almost, throw a rock and have a hard time not hitting somebody who's got a AAA membership, because they really, for everyone I've ever talked to who's had one and had to use it, they were glad they did. And I was telling Amanda earlier in the chat that I've had mine for decades. I've only used it one time, but the one time that I needed it, they delivered. They showed up quickly. They handled the situation. It was no problem whatsoever. And that earned my loyalty. And I can't, I guess it's possible for another similar company to try and take my business away from AAA, but I have a hard time imagining how they would do it.
I think the point to that is, I can't pick anything out at my end. I'm obviously in a different country. But I believe there is a general malaise because of so many brands being thrown at you. But the point you're making, I think, or the point that's come over to me just from that last couple of sentences, is that you're more likely to lose a customer than to gain one. If you cock up, if you don't continue to create an environment where you're giving people good service or good performance or a great quality product, then those people will be tempted away to other service providers or product creations. And that's the point. And I think if you go back to the comic book industry or entertainment, that's the point, is that that people would have been quite happy to carry on buying comics and consuming Hollywood in the way that they were in, say, in the 90s.
Yeah.
And we all knew that it was, we all know that Hollywood actors and actresses, or if they're one-word actors, which is what The Guardian wants to call them, I don't know. We all know that they're people that are in a different world from us.
Right.
Apart from the odd few who seem to keep themselves, fairly based, most of them are another species. Okay, it's like politicians; they haven't got a clue what the real world is like. But you put up with them, okay, while things are okay, while things are kind of working. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's the same with movies and with comics and what have you. You put up with some of their shenanigans. You put up with some of the predatory practices, because in general you're getting what you want. So they're keeping that service or that product at a level that you accept a little bit of a little bit of the downside. But when the product and the service goes, you don't put up with crap anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's so many other options.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's far easier to lose a customer than it is to gain one. And one of the comments earlier in the chat was Lord Crackhead says DeWalt and Craftsman for me when it comes to my trade, two very reliable companies. And for anybody who's not familiar, they manufacture tools, both manual or hand tools and also power tools. And so when you're in construction, like our friend Crackhead is, you rely on those tools to do the job, because if they don't do the job you need them to do, you can't do the job your client is needing you to do. So
I worked on DeWalt advertising and their brochures, their retail brochures, for a while, and they put a lot of care. They put a lot of care into that. They were really keen on getting across exactly what the products were and how the quality they were, because obviously they do charge a bit more for DeWalt. But they and I actually got a couple of products and they were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I'm not much of a DIYer, but tools help.
I've been a DeWalt customer for decades, and I know they got bought out by Black & Decker quite a while ago, and some hardcore construction guys say that they've never been as good since. But it just as a DIY guy, I did not notice a decline in quality. So it just, at least for me as a DIY type of customer, I was still happy to buy their stuff. But I wanted to get to Amanda's comment. She said, doesn't or didn't Craftsman have a lifetime guarantee? Hard to fault that. And then Crackhead said, yep, anytime a tool breaks down or something, I just bring it in and get an instant replacement. Great customer service.
You can't fault that.
No, and it reminds me of, when we're talking about crowdfunding comics, which is why most of us are here. To me, instant replacement is just a given. With Outlier Comics, if you back one of our books and you don't receive it, or it shows up damaged, or you're not happy with it, or whatever, instantly it's how can we make this right? Whether or not I think it's my fault or the shipper's fault or whoever, I don't care. The only thing I care about in that moment is how can we make you, the customer, happy?
Yeah.
Is that a replacement? Is that a refund? Is that something else? Is it just that you just wanted to let me know you don't want a replacement, you don't want a refund, you just want me to know that that particular shipper has a tendency to deliver you damaged books, but when you receive books through other shippers, they arrive just fine. So you just want me to know about it. I mean, whatever it is, that's what I want to give you as a business.
In the big scheme of things, like, you don't expect much of your postage to go wrong.
Right.
Okay. You shouldn't expect, because effectively it should work. The service, the service should work. Okay. So from my perspective, I ended up only having sort of 3 packages arrive. A couple of them got sent back to me. And that actually, none of them were the postage handler's fault. It was actually the backer, because they changed addresses or whatever they'd done. And the first, when you're looking at 200, I've gone 243 backers now. I managed to hit the 10K in sterling.
Yeah,
3 packages. It's not worth annoying people. You just pay the money and send them back. You make sure that they get the package they want. You can't be looking at massive percentages of failed postage. It just, you wouldn't be able to run a business that way. And they wouldn't be able to run their services that way. They have to, the vast majority, the large percentage of post gets there as it should do. So for the few that don't, just send it out again. Don't just eat it, because you're gonna keep the that backer happy. But potentially they're a customer, aren't they? So you keep them happy.
Well, and Russ, aren't we, you and I, with our separate businesses, but then also when we're working together, like on the Outliers, aren't we in the business of trying to earn lifetime customers? And so isn't it worth it to spend however much it is to send them a new book, or to offer a refund if that's what they're asking for, or whatever it is, in the hopes that by providing excellent customer service, we're earning their business for life or for the long term, or whatever it ends up being. Most likely it would be more than whatever we're paying in that moment to remedy the situation.
Oh yeah, and if nothing else, but potentially a good response, or somebody asks, they get these guys made sure I was okay. They do what they say they're going to do. Dependency, like that. If people know they can rely on what you're saying, if they know that you're telling the truth. But also, like what we're doing here and what other people do on YouTube is putting yourself out there and giving more of yourself. Than it's not all about the transaction. It's about building a relationship and trust, and people knowing that they're going to get what they think they're going to get out of you. And that's why we take the time to do this. We're not just sitting there spouting like a couple of old idiots. We're hoping, sorry, me, I'm an old idiot. But we're hoping that we can actually connect with people.
Two old idiots. Thank you very much.
We're hoping that we can connect with people. We're hoping that we can connect, and it's not just about making them future customers per se. It's about that interaction, because we're all about stories. But that all it all folds into that same attitude towards your audience, your potential customers. If you're a business or a service, it's all about that mutual respect, rather than just shoving, getting the plebs to shovel whatever you're feeding them. That's the point, and that turns up in services, in entertainment, in politics, in all kinds of environments where we're all just supposed to take it and eat it. And the way that you build that trust is to actually build a real relationship with those people you're providing a service or a product or just that interaction with.
And this comment from Black Rose Comics, believe it or not, it makes me think of the state of the comic book industry today. B. Rose says to Jim Cox, surprisingly, the Milwaukee cordless half impact lasted me way longer than Snap-on. Now, for people who aren't into tools, basically what B. Rose is saying here is that there's what we call an air tool. So it's powered by compressed air, and if you have an impact driver, then this thing is powered by compressed air, so it's got a lot of power to it, and you can really zip in screws or bolts or loosen them up or whatever quickly. And if you're into a trade, or you're working a trade where you have to use that tool many, many times in a day, let alone every day for a year or however many years in a decade, Snap-on is considered like a premium brand for tools, and Milwaukee is considered more of a budget brand. So B. Rose here saying that Milwaukee, the so-called budget brand, had a tool, and if you do a one-to-one comparison, the budget brand was far more durable than the premium brand. And what that says to me is that here's an opportunity for a so-called budget brand to take business away from a premium brand. And I find that we're in the same situation with indie comics, where we, the so-called budget brand, are taking business away from the so-called premium brands of corporate publishers, Marvel, DC, Image, Boom, Dynamite, what have you. And the thing that I think customers care more about with comics, I think, well, it's hard to say. I'm tempted to say most customers care about the quality of the product and the quality of the service they receive more than the branding that's on the book. But you said earlier, Russ, there are some people who will only read Marvel or only read DC, and you can't convince them otherwise. There's some who will only read indie, and you can't convince them to read a corporate comic. So I do understand that there are people who, they like what they like, and you can't convince them to try something new because they're just not interested, and that's fine. More power to them. But for the people who are essentially just looking for good stories, they don't really care where they come from as long as they're entertained. That, in my opinion, is who we're most likely going to be able to convince to buy our books if we're offering them good products, and we're providing those products with good service.
Yeah. But I mean, indie has had a bad rep. First, going back a long way, it was about getting stuff to the distributors. The distributors then were very restrictive on indie books and made it harder and harder for real indie books. And I do get a little bit frustrated when I hear people call Image and IDW and Dark Horse indie books.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're not. They're corporate comics.
Yeah, they are corporate.
they have major amounts of money compared to the people like us. We're indies. Okay, they're not. So when I talk about indie books, I'm talking about people that are making just a couple of thousand books, and so you go a long way back, and you can see right from the start with the distributor, when it became a monopoly, how the distributor make it very, very difficult for real indie books. You want to find out more about that, check out Randy Zimmerman. He knows so much about the history of comic books. But it's so difficult to compare the two because they come from different places, and indies had that bad rep partly because of that whole distributor issue, but also because let's be honest, in some cases the professionalism that's required to make it stand out wasn't there. Okay, that's just the nature of indie books.
Yeah.
So it makes it very difficult sometimes to actually get people to trust you, to say this book is going to be out, it is going to be of this quality, it is going to be of this standard. And that's where crowdfunding has stepped in. That's where this kind of connection that we've got today going on has stepped in. Things have changed. I mean, the last 3 years has made a radical change in the way that comic books are presented to the world. It might not have got much further, it's still within the nerd community, as it were. You've still got this little civil war going on between nerds of, I like Marvel and DC, no, I like indies. But it is stretching out. And of course, because it's on the internet, it's global. And it is the indie environment is slowly, I think, inevitably going to become the mainstream. It will become the bigger industry, just because it's not made up of a few very large companies, but in adversely, it's made up of many very small companies. Doesn't mean that it won't be the larger half. And I think that's where it's going.
I think that's a great point, and I am going to expand on that a little bit. But first, I want to say hello to some folks that have joined the show.
Oh, Vinny. Hello, Vinny.
While we've been in progress. Great to see you, Vinny. Welcome.
Williams. There's a quality creator.
Yeah, he's he's known for delivering on time and on target. I don't know that I've ever spoken to anybody who has said they were disappointed in the product or how quickly it arrived at their house.
No, it's been brilliant. I got the last hardback he got. He did the hardback of In the Woods or whatever it is.
Yeah.
What's the name of the title? Sorry, Vinny. No disrespect. I am crap with names. It was an absolutely stunning book. I mean, it was beautiful art, really heavy as well. It's like a solid piece of, solid piece of product. And he got that to me really quickly. And it's just stunning. I can't wait for what's the pirate one he's doing? I've backed that.
Shadow of the Kraken.
Yes, can't wait for that. So again, Vinny, don't take any notice of me. I'm an old man. I can't remember any fucking names. Oh, sorry. I also dropped the occasional F-bomb when I was just, but I can't remember names. And but absolutely quality work. And the whole point of what I'm trying to say is that there you go through the woods. There you go.
Through the woods.
The whole point is that kind of quality creator is a standout. And all it does is what creators like Vinny do is they kind of they're kind of like a standard bearer for indie comics. Yes, look, 6 funded now. Rush, it's through the woods. Yeah, my name's Russ, not Rush.
Vinny's old too. What do you know?
Vinny's old too. It's just thank you. It's standout. Do you know what I mean? It's like it really, he's an ambassador for indie comics to show just the kind of quality that you can put out there. I mean, there's several people out there. We all know those creators, but yeah, really good stuff. And we need more people like that. Just like I was saying to you, some people find it hard to jump on the indie cycle, and what's going on at the moment is blowing it up. It's throwing it out there to the world, and people can start realizing they don't need to buy mainstream or corporate. Let's call it corporate comics. They don't need to buy corporate comics. There are great books out there that you don't need to go to corporate comics for.
Yeah, I mean, we have people in the chat like William C. and Oliver from 656 Comics. We've got Resistance Publishing and who was it? Genuine Comics, Dave Brink.
How good is that stuff? I got Sovereign Wolf today or yesterday.
Sovereign Wolf from Eddie Winkler.
Oh, just superb stuff. And the package it came in, fantastic.
Pastmaster Dan. So we've got a Derek Clay. I mean, I'm just going through the chat. What I'm seeing here is the reason why I think you're on the ball, Russ, with indie comics eventually becoming mainstream and corporate comics eventually becoming less than, is because there's been a real shift a shift away from the corporate structure dictating to readers what they're going to buy. With the rise of this indie boom that we've been experiencing for the last few years, we've got a real partnership between creators and readers. So we've got just in this show, which again, Ethan, I'm sorry you chose to stream against us. So if you've got a lower audience than usual, I'm sorry. We're not trying to steal your audience, really. We had this time slot first. No hard feelings. As I said earlier, I've got my all caps ball cap on. Keep on rocking in the free world, but I don't recommend you streaming during this time slot because, if you mess with the tiger, you're going to get the fangs. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, the partnership between creators and readers is where I think the real strength of indie comics is right now for those independent creators and publishers who recognize it. And when you've got the ability to interact with your your readers, and if you're a reader, you got the ability to interact directly with your creators who are making these books that you like and that you want to fund. You've got this symbiotic win-win scenario. If you've got creators who respect readers, readers who respect those creators, and you're both, in a way, you're rooting for each other's success. So I, as a reader, I can look at a book from someone like Vinny or Dave or Resistance Publishing. I'm not going to scroll all the way through the chat, but anyway, I can look at those books and I can, as a reader, say, okay, I want to really not only root for this guy's success or this company's success, but I want to let them know how I think they can achieve that. And then on the other side of that symbiotic relationship, are the creators saying, I want to be successful and I want my readers to be happy. So I'm going to let them know what I'm hoping to do, what I'd like to do, what I'm capable of doing. And then I'm going to ask them to provide input to me so that I can make adjustments where needed to try and meet whatever it is their expectations are. And, we look at this comment from Past Master Dan. He says, as a former retailer, I was never happy with how the buying and distribution went. Frustrating doesn't do its service. I remember working in a comic shop. This was back in the early 90s. And it was a small shop. There was the owner, and then there was me. I was the only regular paid employee. And so when the other owner wasn't around, I ran the shop. I did everything in the store that the owner did, including handling the money, except for one thing. He would not let me do the ordering with Diamond because he said that would be cruel and unusual punishment, and he couldn't do it in good conscience. He couldn't inflict that upon me because he liked me as an employee. And that's how frustrating it was trying to order his inventory so he'd have books to sell to customers. And
I thought the whole point was that you ordered from one place, so it made it easier.
Yeah, exactly. The disparity, let's say, the difference between having a distributor who you don't want to deal with because it's so aggravating, and then the corporate publishers who are publishing so much trash that you can't sell no matter how hard you try in your shop. The difference between that scenario versus being able as a reader to just you walk into your comic shop and you look around, and I've lost count of how many times people have said, I went into my shop this week, I looked around, there was nothing I wanted, so I walked out. Versus so many people with indies where you can look around and virtually any type of comic that you want to read, you can find and buy. And you could some of them you can get from your local shop if you have one, but otherwise you can buy it online. You can buy it from a creator directly. The choice is unparalleled in my opinion. You don't have that sort of choice in corporate comics. See you later, Past Master Dan. Have a good one. Appreciate you stopping by. So that, to me, that gets into another area when we're talking about value, which comes down to company capabilities. And this is another chart I found when I was poking around the corporate world for the first time in I don't know how many years, seeing, what is it these days that they're training their employees on when it comes to customer service and valuing customers. Darren says we got a Zaid raid going on. Well, welcome to all the Zaid show viewers coming over. We appreciate you. So I was about to talk about company capabilities, and that's one of the things where when you and I were growing up, Russ, it was during the Bronze Age of comics, and it seemed like anything you could imagine, Marvel and DC were putting out comics that gave you what you thought was cool, and then they gave you stuff you had no idea existed. And then you're like, wow, I'm discovering new cool things that I've never seen before. This is amazing. And as a young reader, it just lit my imagination on fire. And today, so many books are, they have a double page spread of people sitting around chatting.
Yeah.
And so to me, that I in the last few years have been questioning, what are the capabilities of corporate publishers these days? Are they even capable of hiring people and then empowering those people to create stories that people want because they're exciting, because they're cool, because they're covering ground that's never been covered before?
That's where you go we circle straight back to what we were talking about right at the start. Whereas the entertainment, the value of the product, which is entertainment, is being held back by activism and commentary, instead of just trying to entertain people.
Yeah. When it comes to the capabilities of doing that, I think it always starts at the top. It always starts with leadership. And one of the things that I learned when I worked in corporate business was that corporations will almost without exception take on the personality of their leadership. So if you have a CEO or a president, depending on the size of your company, who is fearless and who is fearless and has a great work ethic and really strives to find out what customers want and then does everything they can to make sure that whatever it is they want, that's what they get, then you will have that sort of corporate culture going all the way down through your organizational structure, your entire corporation. On the flip side, if you have leadership that they're just showing up for a paycheck, they don't really care about the products or services that the company provides. They certainly don't care about whether or not the customers are happy, as long as they keep getting that check every month or every 2 weeks or whatever it is. Then that will filter through the entire company, and that's what you get from that company. So one of the things that I appreciate with independent comic creators is not just them talking about what it is they're offering in terms of story, but what are they capable of delivering? As a reader, I want to know that. And so I want to know, can we expect, 1 book a year, 2 books a year? If I'm going to be investing in this property, let's just say it's Downcast, okay, by Clint Stoker. If I'm going to be investing in Downcast, I want to have a basic idea of what I can expect in terms of Clint's capabilities in publishing these books, because not only do I want to know that my money is being well spent, and in the case of Downcast, I believe it is. I liked book 1, I like book 2, I've backed book 3. I have an expectation now of what his capabilities are as a writer, as a publisher, and as a customer service representative for his publishing company. So because I have a good idea of what his capabilities are, which is due to him communicating them clearly, by the way, which is communicating clearly is something that is vastly undervalued by so many companies, and so many problems that they have in trying to deliver a customer satisfaction come down to communication. I don't know how many times where there was a product that I liked, but I didn't like dealing with the company because their communication was terrible. So anyway, back to the Downcast example. I believe I have a good sense of what Clint's capabilities are as a publisher because of the products that he's delivered to me the trust that he's earned as a result of that. But then also he communicates clearly. So as his capabilities have been growing from the first book till now, he's communicating with me as a reader, and he's allowing me to reset my expectations favorably. He's allowing me to increase my expectations of him and his publishing company because he's communicating those things to me. So if there's anybody in the chat who has examples of creators that you believe do a great job of communicating to you as their customer, what you can expect. They let you know what kind of progress is made on their project. If it's something where there was a situation you needed a refund or replacement or whatever, and they were very quick and their communication, and they followed up with you, go ahead and shout them out in the chat. We'll put it up on the screen because I really want to highlight those sorts of examples, because even for those of us who believe in all of those things, I think it's good to be reminded who else is out there doing it. It's not the type of thing where there's only a few of us. I think there's a lot of us, and the more we focus on the positive examples of creators who are doing things quote unquote the right way, the more I think it inspires other creators to follow suit, either keep that high standard they have or maybe raise their standard if it's not up where it could be.
What you were talking about with capability, I mean, that absolutely feeds into at the risk of repeating myself again, about the way corporate comics was to the way it is now. Corporate comics was all about comics, and the people at the top were all about making great comics because that was their money. That was how they made money, making great comics. And now the people at the top don't believe that making comics makes you money. It doesn't make enough money. Okay, they do make you money, but they don't make you enough money. If you're Disney or AT&T or whoever it is, okay, they don't make enough, and that trickles down, and it means that you end up having a capability deference. You don't have the abilities that you require when you're getting creative staff in. Now, some of those individuals may well be creatively capable, but they're not inspired by the leadership or even pushed by the management to make that work. Because all they're after doing is at best making R&D, and at worst making pamphlets, even propaganda pamphlets. Again, that whole thing I was saying right at the start about activism and commentary, getting involved in the storytelling instead of just making entertainment. There's a place for every kind of comic, and there's a place for every person to read a comic, and there's a place for everybody in comics. But that doesn't mean that you should do that for every comic. You should recognize your audiences, and you should recognize that you're not always going to play to every audience, and that's okay. That's okay. And what makes independent publishers, those people that have got their act together, people like Vinny, and obviously like the other people that they mentioned, Graham Nolan and Zaid and what have you.
Go ahead and finish your point, and then I'm going to shout all these guys out.
The things that make them what they are, and make them work is they're producing quality product. They're creating an environment that is transparent to their audience. They're building that trust, and most importantly, they're agile. And the corporate comics are not. And that's why many independent publishers will end up being mainstream, as against very few corporate publishers being mainstream. It's about variation, and it's about variety, and it's about choice, and that all important part of customer service, accessibility. If people feel that they can contact you and be part of it and just get information from you, they're more likely to trust you to buy from you. and they're more likely to want to invest in your story. And I'm not just talking about the story on the paper or
Right.
in the printed book. I'm talking about your story as a creator,
Mhm.
as a publishing company. People want to be part of success. They want to feel like they're part of it. And that was going on for a long time with Marvel back in the day,
Yeah.
and it's not happening anymore. Not from a comics perspective, anyway. And I picked out
Right.
Marvel there, but I meant to say corporate comics.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm gonna run through the chat here and shout out creators that their readers are saying are doing it the right way. So William C. Saying Zaid Comics. There you go, Phil. And Graham Nolan. I agree. I think Graham has done a phenomenal job. I don't think he's made a wrong step yet in crowd-funded comics. If he has, I'm not aware of it. I've been a customer of his for a long time, and his crowd-funded efforts I have been very happy with, both the books themselves and also the way that he has interacted with his customers. I think Graham is top notch, and the Zaid boys. Phil and Brandon, I've said this to Phil and Brandon privately. I'm going to shout them out publicly here. They are a couple of the examples, along with Clint Stoker, as I mentioned before, and a couple of others who I think have done things the right way. Kyung Lee is another one. I mean, I'm not going to. I could list names all morning, but where they simply worked hard, interacted with their customers, tried to find out what it is people would like, tried to deliver product that would meet those expectations, and then continued following up. And they're very accessible, they're very cordial, and they show a real respect and appreciation for their customers. And the reason why I called those guys out specifically is they didn't have a big audience, they didn't have a big following, they didn't have a big readership that they had previously earned through the corporate scene. They did it all on their own. There was no branding helping them out that had decades of legacy behind it. They did it on their own. So, Phil, if you're still there, cheers to you, buddy. Dave Brink with Genuine Comics, thank you, sir. He says these Outlier guys are doing okay. We appreciate that. William C. is calling out Patrick Thomas Parnell. I know he's got a lot of happy customers. William also says Professor Murph, another great example of a guy with no audience who came in, just worked his butt off, and has really earned the respect of a large readership now who have backed his books. Peter Simeti. This goes back to the early part of the conversation where I was asking about any publishers you could think of in comics that once had a gold standard and they still hold their shine. And I think you were thinking of corporate publishers, although I didn't specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of big brands, but yeah, I mean,
this is
yes,
one. Alterna, in obviously an independent publisher, been around a long time, but only in recent years got into single issues. It was 2017 they published their first single issue comics. Before that, it was graphic novels only. And to my mind, Alterna is a gold standard that we in the indie scene should all strive to reach when it comes to customer satisfaction. The amount of effort that Pete puts into trying to get information from his readers about what they're interested in, what they like, what they don't like, how Alterna could do things better. What is it that they're doing good? What is it they're doing great? All those things. I genuinely think that Alterna is where it's at when it comes to making your customers happy. Jim Cox says he told Matt Krotz, and Matt Krotz is the creator of Kyrie. He's got a book in demand right now, I believe. I told Matt Krotz a book was slightly damaged, likely at printer or boxing, but that I was just letting him know and didn't want replacements. He insisted on sending me extra prints for free. There you go.
There you go.
Matt Krotz.
You remembered it.
Dave with Genuine Comics says Bill Mouse.
Yeah.
Yep, the illustrator for Beard Zerker and X Farce, and many more books, I'm sure, soon to come with Don Chin. Let's see. Resistance Publishing is calling out Eddie Winkler.
Billy Tucci in the list as well.
Let's see.
And, Anthony Figaro.
Oh yeah, the chat jumped on me. Yeah, Billy Tucci, Anthony Figaro, Jasper. Sorry, go ahead, Russ.
No, there really is there's a line that you can draw right the way through all these people. It's courteous, professional behaviour.
Yeah.
An ability to get things done when they say they're going to get them done, and quality at the end of the day. Professionalism is not a thing that is limited to banking.
No,
okay, it should be something that's across the board. And so I bought all of my professional behaviour and all of my business knowledge and acumen from design, publishing, retail, whatever it might have been, that programming in my past, and I immediately applied it to my campaign and to my book. There wasn't any thought process in me that was to say, well, it should be different because it's comics. It's still the same process,
right?
It's still, you still want the same outcomes.
Jasper has a word here for creators. Personalized thank you letters are huge. It was nice when Graham and Tucci included one. And he says, I appreciated the thank you letter more than the tchotchkes. I agree that is a nice touch. And another one I remember who did that, and I think the first that I received was from Art T. Bear and his wife Pamela. They're business partners running Hack Shack Studios. And I remember when I received my copy of, first it was Black and White, and then Chrono Mechanics, and each of those had personalized thank you letters. And that I remember filing that away in my memory, saying, when I'm ready to send out orders, I'm going to do the same thing. Resistance Publishing's calling out Eddie Winkler. He's gotten lots of compliments for his customer service, the way that he's packaged up and sent out his books. And Eddie being a first-time creator, I think that's especially noteworthy. So good job, Eddie. Vinny is calling you out, Russ. You and Red Gaze. So
thank you, Vinny.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Billy Basco says, "G'day, mates."
G'day, mate.
G'day, Billy. Thanks for joining us this morning.
It's easy to pick out. I was thinking earlier when we started this segment that if you look back at like a year, 2 years, 3 years, but more like 2 or 3 years, there were far fewer people on the platform, on crowdfunding platforms than there are now, specifically Indiegogo, but far less. But you could see once it started to build up, there was a swamp. It's just like it got swamped with lots and lots of campaigns. But very quickly, you could see those ones that stood out head and shoulders. There were certain creators that just you could see the quality of the books that they were putting out, and it made it that much easier to go buy those books.
Yeah.
Whether it was seeing them stream online and getting to know them, or whether it was just the quality of the art that you could see in the book, how much they'd put into the campaign itself, that it was easy to read and that you could get involved quickly, well thought out perks, just all of these things combined, you can see that we're all building off each other and learning off each other.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing as well, because the people that you talk to Leroy and listen to his streams and what have you, there are a whole bunch of people out there who aren't creators, who are buying the books, and they watch and they hear and they see everything that's going on.
Yeah,
they'll pick you out if they think you're a bit of an a-hole. They'll pick you out, and if you're not doing the right things, they'll notice, and it will, eventually they'll stop buying your books. So that transparency, and that openness to let people into the project is really important. And but all of the things we've been talking about in this whole stream, they all kind of they wrap around each other, in that connection between you and the people that are going to buy your book.
Yeah. There was something I was trying to share here, and it jumped off my screen.
Fantastically well packaged. It was fantastic. I was just so impressed with that. I've got a little note inside the box, and the book itself is beautiful.
Welcome to those who are joining the show. There we go. There's Dean, another one of our mates from Down Under. Good to see you, Dean. Thanks for joining us. And Inkfinity Comics is here as well. And Billy Basco joined a few minutes ago. Good to see you guys. Yeah, so one of the things that has been proven time and time again, as Mo has found out, is that when it comes to sniffing out frauds, when it comes to sniffing out insincerity, when it comes to sniffing out unpleasant personalities, unlikable people, if you will, the best bloodhound in the world doesn't have anything on the chat. The chat will sniff it out the first time, every time. And sometimes they'll give people a little bit of leeway if they feel like, it's possible that this guy's a jerk, or it's just possible that he's nervous, uncomfortable on camera, not used to it. Or maybe they're a first-time creator and the reader is trying to email them, and there's something that isn't coming across quite right as intended, via email, and the chat will give them, a little bit of leeway there. But when it comes to anything related to treating people disrespectfully, or not delivering on promises, or not really putting skin in the game and just trying to show up for a quick cash out, a quick payday, without putting any real effort into it, the chat will sniff that out every time. And it's one of those things where I've got this graphic here where it says on this little whiteboard, lowest price equals lose, highest value equals win. Now that is from the point of view of a company. So as a customer, some of us might say, hey, lowest price is a win. But what they're trying to say is that it's not always offering the lowest price that will get you a large customer base and long-term customer loyalty. It'll get you some customers for sure. But when it comes to those lifetime customers that every business owner should be trying to earn and to keep, the highest value equals win. That's the thing. You can entice somebody with the lowest price once in a while. There's some people you can do it often, but the ones who have the most money to spend usually will spend it on the products or the services where they perceive the highest value is at. So I think that in this game, in the indie comics scene, indie games, indie film, indie TV, whatever, if you're an independent creator, and I say this as somebody who has bought I don't know. I've backed something like 150 crowdfunded comics at this point. It's not always the cheapest book that I buy. In fact, it's rarely ever the cheapest book that I buy. It's where I think the most value is in the product, and who I tend to believe in the most as a creator, who will be here for the long term, and really is putting skin in the game. They really are giving it 100% effort, and they're not just trying to give half an effort in the hopes of cashing in on a quick payday. Dean here from Comics Mate says, practice makes perfect when it comes to streaming. Everybody's uncomfortable their first time. Yeah, some people are uncomfortable every time.
Yeah, it's not a natural place for me to be. As an art monkey, all I want to do is sit in my dungeon and draw. I don't want to get on here and do this stuff. But I do it because it's important.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you drive yourself to do the things that matter. And it matters to come on. It matters to connect with people. It matters not just for sales, but literally that connection between yourself, showing yourself what you are honestly. And you have to be honest here, because if you're not, you'll be caught out. And that's what's important, is that there's that connection, because at the end of the day, we're all massive comic book fans. That's what we love. That's our choice of entertainment. I've certainly found myself dropping away from all films and all TV recently.
Me too.
All I care. I'm totally back into buying back issues, buying independent comics, I'm absolutely loving what I'm doing at the moment, enjoying myself so much, and hopefully that's coming out on the page. And it's so important to get out there and talk to people. It's like being at a convention. The great things about convention, I mean, I was at conventions, and the smaller ones are the better ones, because you've always got more time to talk to people.
Yeah.
And I had people come up to me and be kind of reverential and like, oh, I really like your work, and could I get a signature? And I loathed that. I didn't loathe the people. I wanted to give them the time and loved talking to them. And if I could give them any encouragement, I met some fantastic artists who blew me away. And I just encouraged them to do the right thing, be professional, find the right routes. Often encourage them not to draw comics, but to go and be in films or games or whatever, because there's more money in it. But don't ever lose your passion. But the whole point being is that you want to connect with people.
Yeah.
And having these streams is like having a 24-hour a day convention. It's like you can come on anytime you like and know that someone somewhere in the world will be able to see you, and you'll be able to interact with them in some way, even if it's even if they're just watching you on the replay. You'll have interacted with them. So that it's a hugely important thing to do. And just as I found conventions important, just because being on a camera and using YouTube was very different for me.
Yeah.
It didn't make it any different as far as the value of it was concerned. Very valuable thing to do, so that you can connect, personally with people. They see the white of your eyes. They know you're not taking a mick.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on this comment from Woodrow. He said, as someone who has clinical anxiety, streaming is rough. I try my best, though.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, with Russ was saying, he'd rather just be drawing all day. As opposed to being on camera at all. I'd rather be writing and editing all day as opposed to being on camera at all. However, we realize that we don't live in our own imaginary utopias. We live in the real world, and we understand there are certain considerations that need to be taken care of if we're going to be successful in this area of entertainment. So, I really applaud people like Woodrow and others who I know do have a really rough time with it. And
Billy's right as well, as an addendum to what Woodrow's saying, is that get yourself some help as well.
Yeah, and I wanted to say that I know before I ever appeared on camera, when I was only a viewer, and I still I listen more than watch, because I'm an at-home dad, and I've always got stuff going on during the day. So I listen mostly, but I always appreciate when people who are having a tough time on camera are trying. That's the main thing. I want to know that if I'm going to be spending $25 on a book or more plus shipping, I want to know that that creator is going to give it their all, no matter what it is. If it's the writing of it or the drawing of it or the coloring of it or the editing of it, if it's the packaging up of everything, I want to know that they're putting 100% effort in if I'm going to spend that kind of money on them. A lot of times untested. I don't know them. I've never met them personally. So if I can see them on camera and I can hear their voices and I can get a sense for who they are as a person, and even if they don't think they're any good on stream, if I know they're giving it their best effort, then as far as I'm concerned, they've earned enough of that kind of first level of trust from me as a backer, so that if I like what I see of their campaign, then I'll go ahead and back them.
Yeah.
There's been creators where I might have bought their book, except that they gave me the vibe that, they were basically doing the rest of the world a favor by showing up. I didn't back their campaign.
No, exactly. Exactly what you're saying there. Highest value equals win. What is your value set? Is it just the physical book you get? Is it the extras you get in the package, or is it the customer service, or is it in addition to that, the passion of the creator, the want of the creator to be there and to have that interaction with you and feel like you're getting something special, and that's the whole point of the crowdfunding game. And exactly what we were saying about highest value equals win. Yes, it's a $25 book and you're going to spend another $10 getting it sent to you, but if you feel that you're getting something of value out of that that's worthy of that, then you'll pay it. It's pretty much as simple as that. It's like, why do people play video games? It's not a valuable use of their time, really. They're enjoying themselves.
Yeah,
it's fun.
They're entertained.
They're entertained. So, like, it doesn't. Why did we keep putting? Some people might not know about this in the chat. Why did we keep putting quarters or 10 pences in my country? Why do we keep putting them into machines and playing, Space Invaders or whatever it was back in the day?
Right.
It was a complete waste of money. No, it wasn't a waste of money. We were enjoying ourselves. I paid that money to enjoy myself.
That's the thing.
You
paid. You paid for an experience. And if you enjoyed yourself, then it felt like money well spent, even if our parents said it was a waste of money.
Exactly. And with these books, you're getting that experience. There's a whole, even right the way down to I'm on my in-demand store and I'm hoping to get 250 backers. I'm on 243. It's creeping up. It's going to stop on the 2nd of July, and I'm hoping that I can maybe creep up to 250. But the whole crowdfunding game, it is a bit like a game. People enjoy seeing the numbers change. They enjoy being part of that process. And then if they can be part of that, if they can get a product that they really like, they can get a package and think, oh, I got something extra in here, which is something I try to do. I know it's something you're going to try to do. You put those little extras in that nobody expects they're going to get. And then on top of that, they get a quality product that they can put in their library of books. And take out in a year's time and go, oh, that was a really good book. I'm going to flick through that again. And it can be part of their collection. Then it's worth that money. It's worth it. I mean, I've paid stupid money to have books sent to me from the States as much as the value of the book. And it was worth it because the book was just so damn good. And it's now, up there in the collection.
Yeah, and you guys that are in the chat, if you decide to back Outliers, I mean, Russ, I've told Russ several of my ideas for the campaign, and we really do have some fun stuff planned. I've got some ideas for doing things that I haven't seen anybody else do before, and I know as a backer myself, when I come across a campaign where I see that, then that always is fun for me. I like seeing new stuff come out, or maybe something that's been done before, but now it's being done in a new way. I always enjoy that. So I really hope that you guys enjoy what we do with our campaign, which is still a ways off. But we are going to show some artwork that you'll find in the book, and we'll certainly be showcasing a bunch of artwork on the campaign. But in the meantime, we've got some inked pages here. Russ has finished inking chapter 1, and we're going to show you a couple of pages from it. So for people who have been following along on previous shows as to what was going on with our hero team, the Outliers, they had to go apprehend this guy out in the north woods of Maine, and unbeknownst to them, he had a little secret, which was that he could transform into a 10-foot tall bear man. And so they suddenly found themselves in over their heads. But something happened, and we haven't shown the pages as to exactly what. We're going to save that for when you guys read the entire chapter. But something happens where the tide is turned, and our buddy Yogi here suddenly started having a really bad day, and he comes sailing through the air, crashes into a tree, and then just as he is about to slam into the ground, Mini Mart comes zipping in with some tranquilizer darts that he got from a teammate of his that was out of commission, and he's unconscious here when he hits the ground, but just in case, Mini Mart is going to stick him in the old back door and just make sure he stays asleep for a little while. And then, because earlier in the comic, this guy had thrown Mini Mart against a tree and broke his helmet, Mini Mart decided to stick those tranq darts in the butt and then give him a little present on his way out. So I hope you guys are enjoying the story as we've been giving you little bits and pieces of it over the last several months. Here's a scene where after the team has kind of regrouped, after they've defeated their foe, and here we've got Night Falcon, who is asking Mini Mart, hey, where's Agent Santos? And she is their government liaison. They're a government-funded and supervised team of superheroes, and she is their liaison to the government. And so Mini Mart is saying, oh, I think she's calling us a ride, to head out of here. So he goes, he finds her. And right here we see he's using some of the technology in his suit. And no, William C., not Antos. Santos with an S. There's definitely not an Antos in this book. Thank you for asking. So here we see Night Falcon. He's got some technology in this suit, and right now he's zeroing in on Agent Santos from a distance, and he's utilizing some surveillance technology here to find out what she's up to, because let's just say he doesn't think that she's entirely trustworthy. Inkfinity Comics says, I see a 9-panel grid. Guys, why is that guy not talking on the phone for the entirety of it? Tom King would be very disappointed. Well, the reason for that, Mr. Alejandro, is that Russ and I actually like to tell stories that feel like they're going somewhere. And so if we're going to use a 9-panel grid, it's going to be for storytelling purposes where things actually happen. Now, we don't have any dialogue or captions or anything on this page because we don't want to give any spoilers away just yet. But believe it or not, the story is actually progressing on this page.
I would actually suggest, and this is not me blowing my own trumpet, that you don't even need the text to see the the tension in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
It says everything you need to know. He's obviously having a conversation. If you don't know, if you would have just come to this page and not seen any page prior to it or any page after it and not know anything about the characters whatsoever, it's quite clear that the two characters at the top are discussing something and one is pointing away. He's turned to see another character. You've moved in on his face because you now know there's some tension, even though you can't see his expressions because he's under a mask.
Yeah.
And you zoom closer to get the drama. You then zoom in even closer to get the technology, which is a story cue.
Yep.
And then he's obvious that he's now surveying her from a distance. Now, if he's surveying her from a distance and he's not moved in closer, that means he wants to keep it to himself, which again adds further drama to the scene. You then have the quite obvious, okay, this is done with text because it's a 10 times on the zoom and the audio, but it's zooming in and effectively giving people the impression that he is surveilling her from a distance. And then there is obviously some kind of reveal in the bottom right-hand corner because you're now in the real world. You're not looking through the mask. You're not looking through the visor anymore.
Yeah.
So just doing that visually, the idea of having one person sitting just talking heads, it just is abhorrent to me. And if you are going to do that, then you need to do it with angles and you need to do it dynamically to keep the reader's eye engaged. If all you're doing is the same picture in 9 panels, but with a slightly different facial expression and a different background, maybe it's a turn off. It's a total turn off.
Yeah, I mean, we could have gone, what I would call the modern day Marvel or DC route and say, oh, let's make this a splash page, and then just fill up one half of it with dialogue and have the characters tell you everything rather than show you. But we decided to go a different way. We decided to try classic storytelling for a change.
That old chestnut. This actually, what we've done here, Billy, because he's mentioned there that drawing on computers makes this easier. This is all traditional inks, apart from the duplication of Santos down at the bottom. There was really only having the technologies that we have. There's no reason not to use them. So 2 things come out of this. One, being able to do certain things quicker with less mess. Okay. And 2, the original art actually being slightly different in some occasions to what you finally see, which actually means that that page is special in its own way, because it doesn't have that duplicate down the bottom and it doesn't have the graphics over the top. I know. But it just goes to show that whether you work completely digitally or whether you work completely traditionally, there are techniques and most importantly storytelling techniques that should be the same no matter what. Okay, and you shouldn't use digital as some kind of crutch or some kind of easy way that you think would fill panels up. And I, obviously I know for a fact that Billy wouldn't do that, but corporate comics does do that, and part of that is what we were saying through the whole thing is that they're not there to make comics. They're made to make pamphlets, or they're made to do R&D or whatever. So the quicker they can get it out, the better. So if you can do some duplicate pictures, off you go. The editor, whatever the editors do or don't do, if Tom King comes in and goes, I've got these 2 pages full of 9 panel grids, and it's these guys talking to each other, and it's really important to the script, and the editor goes, yeah, whatever. No, nobody cares. That's the problem. Nobody gives 2 hoots.
And that's the thing is, if it was really compelling conversation, And the artist was given the freedom to show the visual dynamics of this conversation the way that they felt like it could be shown. Maybe it'd be a different story.
How to draw comics the Marvel way.
I've heard that phrase before. It brings me in mind of a book I have on my shelf. Interestingly enough,
there is one particular example in here, which is just amazing, and it's a conversation between what looks like a newspaper editor or some kind of CEO or something. It's just a couple of guys in suits talking to each other. And there's two versions of the page. One version of the page is supposedly the dull version, although nothing that John Buscema ever drew could ever be dull. And then the second version of the page is supposedly like how it should be done. And so there's more dynamic angles in it. There's a more of a sense of tension. This is the spread here. I don't know if you can see it.
Let me
probably can't. Yeah, you can. It's not bad actually.
Let me blow that up. Oh, sorry, Russ.
So there we go. You see. So this page here, this page here, this one's supposed to be the dull one.
Yep.
And this one is the exciting one. They can just see from the angles. I mean, this one here, this panel.
Yep.
Compared to this panel, look at the dynamics in that. I mean, still, this is better than most stuff you get in corporate comics these days, anyway.
Well, yeah, he was such a great illustrator.
Yeah, but just look at that compared to that. Okay, and these are they're simple techniques. They really are. You don't have to think too much to make these work, and it doesn't matter whether you're doing it digitally or whether you're doing it traditionally. That's all about storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. One of the things that Russ and I talked about very early in the process is I told him that I wasn't going to be writing, dialogue and caption heavy material. It was going to be pretty light on that stuff by modern standards, and that I was going to write in such a way that I would make sure that I let him know when critical elements had to be in place. And then I would let him know things that I would like to see, but I was open to, whatever Russ's interpretation might be. If he thinks that there's a more effective way to show it, then by all means, do it that way. And then I let him know that there'd be a lot of stuff where I would just ask him to come up with something cool, because I'm curious what he would come up with. I didn't feel the need to dictate every last little detail. I know what he can do. It's why I recruited him. So a lot of it for me is just the fun of letting him go and seeing what he's going to come up with. And then if there's something in there that for whatever reason would cause a conflict with other elements in the story, well, then we discuss it and we make adjustments and we go from there. But if it doesn't conflict with anything else and I like it and I think that readers are going to like it, then I'm certainly not going to ask him to change it, because the point is not for me to control what's going on in the story. The point is for me to collaborate with other people whose work I admire and who I bring in for a reason. So whether it's Russ's line work or Inkspot's color work or Eric Weathers' lettering, that's the fun stuff for me. The collaborative process is very fun and creatively fulfilling.
Yeah, I mean, you get people to do what they're good at and let them do it, and then curtail it if it goes the wrong way. That's what editors are for. But I mean, that page that we were showing with the 9-panel grid, that's a perfect example, because I think you wrote it as 6 panels, and it had all the elements that it required, and I expanded it into a 9 because I thought it worked, because I wanted to zoom in on Falcon's face so that I could add to the drama on that, and you loved it and it worked, and that's the whole point, making it work within a team environment. So getting everybody to bring their bit.
Absolutely. Billy Basco says, you guys are making your comic like This Is Spinal Tap conflict with you have a plot and you set the rules, but you're letting your own characters act out the scenes for themselves. Exactly. He says fictional character improvisation, you could call it. Yeah, that's exactly it. Russ and Ink Spots and Eric, because in this book and future Outlier books, if customers decide they want to back them and keep us in business, which we'd be very happy if they did, I consider Eric Weathers as the letterer to be part of the art team. To me, lettering should complement and enhance artwork just the way colors should enhance line work, just the way line work should enhance writing. Each in my opinion, the ideal situation is where the comic book production process is an iterative one, meaning I, as a writer, essentially iterate the story in its first, most basic form. And then Russ builds upon that with line work. And then Ink Spots builds upon that with colors. And then Eric Weathers builds upon that with lettering. And so when you've got all of the ingredients, you've developed a recipe. Why mess up the finished product by insisting that there has to be far more emphasis on just one ingredient? Why not bring the ingredients together and blend them so that the finished meal is balanced with the flavors and textures and everything? And then at the end of the day, you get something that people really love to consume and they want more of it. That's how we're working at Outlier Comics, and we really hope that you guys do enjoy the final product in addition to these behind the scenes peeks that we try and give you each week. So that being said, Russ, I think it's time to call it a show.
It is. It's time. That's it for this week.
We really do appreciate everyone in the chat who has shown up to join us today for the live show. We appreciate everybody who catches it on the replay. Yeah. Feel free to leave us any comments if you have feedback, positive, negative, a little of both. We appreciate all of it. And, hopefully as we move into the months ahead, we'll be able to provide some additional insight with how the behind the scenes process and the way that we're working shows up in the finished product. We've had some delays in getting the color work done, but it doesn't delay the overall production process. I've simply moved some other stuff in where we anticipated coloring to happen. And so work on other stuff is happening, and then colors will come in. So I'm moving pieces around to make sure that everything stays on track. So the train is definitely still on schedule. And when we do have colors to show, you can bet we'll definitely be showing them off here and on Russ's show and on Twitter and wherever people like to view such things. So thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you joining us today. We know that you could be doing anything else, but you're choosing to spend your time with us, and we're grateful for that.
Much appreciated.
So thanks, everybody. Let's all go out and make a great day.